Okay, on today's video I'm going to show you how to free off a thermostatic radiator valve that's stuck in the off position. Okay, so very often you'll find that if you've turned the radiator off in the summer months, when you come to turn the valve on in the autumn and the winter, you'll find that the radiator doesn't work. And that's because inside the thermostatic radiator valve there's a pin that pushes down on a plunger onto a seat in the valve, and that plunger gets stuck on the seat in the valve if it's left in the off position for any period of time. Okay, so obviously then when you come to turn the thermostat on, if that plunger is stuck, then it won't allow water through the pipe and into the valve and then into the radiator. Okay, so to free the valve off, it's quite a straightforward job, but you're going to need some tools to do that. And the first thing you're going to need is some water pump pliers similar to this. And you're going to want a piece of metal similar to this that's reasonably robust, because you're going to be putting some pressure on the seat with this and pushing down. So something like that would be more than okay. You can actually use the water pump pliers, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use this piece of metal here. Okay, so the first thing to do is to put the heating system on and turn also on any thermostats that you may have in the hallway that brings the heating on. The reason for that is that as soon as the thermostat has been freed off, you should feel water coming in this hot water coming in this flow pipe here into the valve and then into the radiator. Now, very often you can find as well that the thermostat hasn't been fitted on the flow pipe of the radiator. It's been fitted on the return pipe. So in that instance, hot water won't come into this side first of all, it will come into the return pipe. So if you think you've freed off the valve but you're getting no hot water here, just check on the other pipe on the other side of the radiator, because it could be that it's coming into there first of all. Okay, so after you've put the heating system on, the first thing to do is to make sure the valve head is in the fully open position. Get your water pump pliers, put them on the locking nut of the head of the valve and turn anti-clockwise. Now be careful with these that you don't over squeeze the locking nut. There's no need to. If you do, you may distort the ring of the locking nut, and that's that's not a good thing to do. So once you've done that, you then finger tight and you pull the thermostat off. Okay. Now on some thermostats you can find that instead of a locking ring like that, there's some black pins, and so with those, if you've got that type of valve, all you do is pull the pin out or pins out, and then the valve just pulls off the top of the valve. So either is fine, and but on this particular model we've got the locking nut that turns. Okay, so once we've done that, you'll see on the valve that there's a pin there, and that pin, if the thermostat is locked, will always be in a low position, so it will be down in the valve. Now this particular valve hasn't stuck, but if it has, you will find that that pin is in the recessed position. Okay, that position there. Okay, so to free the valve off, there's a couple of things you need to do. The first one is to put your piece of metal on, put it on the pin and just apply pressure like this to the pin. Just keep pushing down quite hard, and you should find that that alone is enough to release that pin. Now, if it doesn't, and you've tried that for a minute or so and you're not getting any joy, the next thing to do is to get your water pump pliers and give the valve a sharp tap. Now, you're not looking to tap these screw threads because you'll damage those, but on the side of the valve, just give the valve a sharp tap with your water pump pliers. Now, by doing that creates a shock in the valve, which is very often enough to dislodge the seat, the plunger from the seat of the valve. Okay, so again, if you find that it's stuck, then give that a tap. Okay, so you might need to do a combination of both things, pushing down on the pin and giving the valve a tap. Okay, and if you be patient with it and be gentle with it as well, you'll normally find that that is more than sufficient to dislodge the pin. Now what you mustn't be tempted to do is grab hold of the pin itself with the pliers and pull upwards, because what you'll do there is pull the pin out of the hole, and then you can get water coming out of there, and that's not something that you want to do. So don't be tempted to pull the pin up because you're only pulling the pin up, you're not pulling the plunger up. Okay, so just go through that again. To free off, you push down on the valve like that, and also you do it a tap like that. As soon as it's free, you'll feel hot water coming into the valve here. And if it doesn't come in this side, first of all, it will come into the return side of the radiator. Okay, so once you've done that, the only thing left to do is to put the head back on. So to do that, you have all of the heads have an arrow on the front of them. So that arrow always wants to face the front, because that's where you read the radiator from. You put it on the front, and then you turn clockwise the locking nut so it's finger tight, and then just get your water pump pliers and just gently nip up. You don't need to overdo that, just nip up an eighth of a turn further. Okay, so the only other thing really on this is that once you've freed off the thermostat, don't be tempted then to turn the valve to the off position for a day or two. And the reason is, what you want to do is to let the heating system run through the valve, and the act of that will lubricate this valve and the seat and stop it from getting stuck in the off position straight away again. After a few days though, you're more than okay to turn the valve off and on as you need to. Now the only other thing to say is that to stop this from happening in the first place, in the summer, it's best to leave, once you've turned the heating off, it's best to leave all your thermostatic heads in the fully open position. That way the plunger can't get stuck on the seat, and so you won't have this problem happen again. Okay, so I hope that this video has been helpful, and that ends today's tutorial on how to free off a thermostat that's been stuck in the off position.